Welcome to Thinking Deeper by 6-7.
Glad to be here.
Today we're diving headfirst into the oldest, probably the most intense philosophical debates in human history.
Oh, absolutely. The foundational stuff.
Right. The very questions at the absolute center of modern discussions about God and atheism. I mean, imagine finding out that the creator of the universe isn't actually all-powerful.
Which is a huge shock to the system for most people.
Exactly. Imagine that God is literally losing a war and actually needs your help to win it.
Yeah.
So by examining John Milton's epic Paradise Regained alongside the ancient, really revolutionary theology of Zoroastrianism, we're exploring some massive questions today.
We really are.
Like, if God is perfectly good, why does suffering exist? Is the divine completely untouchable or intimately tied to human struggle? And how does human free will actually tip the scales of cosmic history?
It's a lot to cover.
It is. Oh, and before we jump in, if you like my channel, please subscribe and press the like button. So what exactly are we doing today?
Well, our mission today is to synthesize these two massive frameworks.
Right.
On one hand, we've got a foundational text of English Christian literature, and on the other, one of humanity's oldest continuous religions.
Zoroastrianism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to extract the profound ways they define ultimate truth, the actual mechanics of evil, and that heavy burden of human choice.
Because ancient people were trying to solve the exact same puzzles that modern atheists and theologians still argue over right now.
Yeah, the debates haven't really changed.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the ultimate theological roadblock.
The big one.
Right. The central tension in almost every modern debate about atheism and belief, the problem of evil.
Also known as the classic trilemma.
Yeah, the trilemma. And for anyone unfamiliar, it's basically a logical puzzle with 3 points. First, God is all-powerful.
Right.
Second, God is perfectly good. And third, evil and suffering exist.
And you can't easily reconcile all three.
No, you really can't. The argument goes, if God is all-powerful, he could stop suffering. And if he's perfectly good, he would want to stop it.
But suffering is everywhere.
Exactly. So we're usually forced into this harsh binary. Either the divine is capable but totally indifferent to our pain, or, I don't know, loving but somehow weak.
It's the defining friction of theology.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the primary engine behind most modern atheistic arguments today.
For sure.
But what's fascinating here is that Zoroastrianism, which emerged from the ancient Iranian plateau thousands of years ago, offers a totally unique answer.
A radical one, really.
Extremely radical. In this framework, the supreme creator deity is Ahura Mazda.
Which means the wise lord, right?
Correct. So Ahura Mazda created a perfectly good universe using thought and wisdom alone.
Yeah.
But here is the crucial pivot. Ahura Mazda is not currently omnipotent in the absolute limitless sense.
Wait, not omnipotent,
Yeah.
but that completely breaks the traditional mold. I mean, Western philosophy usually defines God entirely by that trait.
Oh, absolutely.
The whole concept of a supreme being usually hinges on having limitless power over literally everything.
And that is the genius of the Zoroastrian answer to the trilemma.
Hmm.
They essentially drop the first point.
Absolute omnipotence.
Right. They drop absolute omnipotence to save the second point, which is absolute goodness.
Oh, wow.
The reason Ahura Mazda isn't currently omnipotent is because he is actively opposed by an uncreated, independent, destructive spirit.
Longer mean you.
Exactly. So in Zoroastrianism, evil exists because a genuine external adversary actively produces it.
So it's not like a secret test from God to build your character.
No, not at all. It's not a mysterious divine plan that we just can't understand.
Yeah.
It is a literal cosmic invasion.
That is wild.
God is doing everything possible to fight this evil, but the victory requires time, struggle, and the active participation of all good beings.
Okay, let's unpack this, because my immediate reaction, and I think the reaction of a lot of modern critics or atheists, is like, doesn't limiting God's power diminish his majesty?
It's a fair question.
It's like saying the ultimate architect of the universe is just a heavyweight fighter struggling in the boxing ring,
Rather than what?
rather than the untouchable billionaire who actually owns the entire arena. Like, if he can't snap his fingers and end the fight, why call him the supreme creator?
That is a highly valid critique, and it's one the tradition directly anticipates.
Really? How do they counter that?
The Zoroastrian counterargument asks us to fundamentally reevaluate what makes divinity worthy of worship in the first place.
Okay.
Is it raw, overwhelming, tyrannical power? Or is it ultimate moral goodness?
Ah, I see where this is going.
They argue that a perfectly good God who rolls up his sleeves and actively fights evil alongside creation commands way more genuine reverence.
Then an all-powerful God who just watches suffering happen from a safe distance.
Exactly. It changes the dynamic entirely. God isn't a distant observer permitting tragedy,
He's the ultimate general in the trenches with you.
taking casualties, fighting the exact same war.
Wow, that fundamentally shifts the emotional relationship you'd have with the divine.
It really does.
You're not crying out to a detached observer asking, why did you let this disease happen to my family?
Right? You're looking at a fellow soldier who hates the disease just as much as you do.
So if God is in the trenches with us, fighting this cosmic war, it begs the question, what does it look like when the divine actually gets its hands dirty?
Which is the perfect bridge to our second source.
Yeah, that's exactly what John Milton was trying to figure out in the 1600s with Paradise Regained.
We're moving from the macrocosmic scale of ancient Persia down to a hyper-focused, intensely psychological duel.
Right, in the Judean wilderness. So Paradise Regained focuses on Jesus fasting in the wilderness for 40 days, right after his baptism.
Yes.
And Milton is stepping into this massive, fierce theological debate of his era.
About the mechanics of the incarnation.
Exactly. When Jesus was walking around on Earth, was he basically wearing a human disguise?
Like an astronaut in a spacesuit.
Right. Totally insulated from the toxic environment. Or was he actually breathing the toxic air? Did he experience true human limitation?
Or was he just pretending to struggle while secretly holding on to all his omnipotent power?
Yeah.
It raises a huge question about the nature of a savior figure.
So where does Milton land on this?
Milton's stance, which largely aligns with modern theological consensus, is that Jesus was fully God in his perfect wisdom.
Okay.
But he was fully limited by the physical human form.
That's a vital distinction.
It is. It means he genuinely felt the gnawing physical pain of cellular starvation after 40 days.
He felt the psychological weight of isolation.
And most importantly, he was genuinely susceptible to temptation.
Because if he couldn't actually be tempted, the whole story is just a farce.
Exactly.
If the astronaut is completely insulated in the suit, we aren't really impressed when he survives the vacuum of space.
The tension only exists if he could theoretically fail.
Right.
If he possesses absolute, unfiltered omnipotence in that desert, then his victory over the devil isn't a triumph of human obedience.
It's just a meaningless show of force.
Exactly. Milton wants to show us that the divine had to win the war using human tools.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because Satan's strategy in Milton's epic is just this masterclass in psychological manipulation.
Oh, that's brilliant.
He doesn't show up with a pitchfork demanding a soul. He starts incredibly small.
Very subtle.
He disguises himself as a poor old man and says, hey, we're both starving out here. You're supposedly the son of God. Just turn these useless stones into bread. Feed us.
He's attacking the immediate physical vulnerability.
But when Jesus essentially says, look, I'm not using divine magic to escape the human condition, Satan has to escalate his tactics.
But notice how the mechanism of temptation changes there.
Yeah.
He moves from physical appetite to psychological appetite. When the body won't break, he goes right after the ego.
He really does. He drops the old man disguise and starts offering massive worldly glory.
He conjures this lavish, impossibly decadent banquet.
And when that fails, he offers immense wealth and then actual military might.
The empires.
Right. He literally takes Jesus to a mountaintop, shows him the Roman and Parthian empires, essentially the two undisputed superpowers of the ancient world.
And says, look, you're supposed to be a king.
Why wait? Let me give you these armies right now. You can rule justly. You can stop suffering today.
It's so insidious.
Satan isn't just offering a free lunch anymore. He's offering the ultimate ego boost.
He's trying to make Jesus feel that the slow, painful process of human salvation just isn't worth his time.
Right, like he should just take the throne now and force everyone to be good.
What's fascinating here is how this aligns perfectly with the Zoroastrian concept of evil.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, to understand these profound concepts of God in both traditions, we have to look closely at how they define the anti-God.
The adversary.
Yes. In Zoroastrianism, the fundamental concept of evil is called druj,
Druge.
which translates to the lie or chaos.
Mm-hmm.
It's the absolute opposite of Asha, which is truth, order, and creation.
So Druge isn't just breaking a rule or behaving badly, it's much deeper than that.
Way deeper. Druj is literally anti-creation.
Wow.
Our sources refer to it as an ontological parasite.
Ontological meaning it has to do with the very nature of existence.
Exactly. An ontological parasite has no actual substance or existence of its own.
Like a shadow.
Or think of it like rust on a car.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Rust isn't a thing you can build an engine with. It's simply the corruption of the iron.
Right, it's the decay.
It is the rot, the lie that corrupts what is already good. It cannot exist without something beautiful to ruin.
That is such a chilling way to describe it, a cosmic parasite.
It really is.
And that abstract ancient concept maps so perfectly onto the highly emotional, deeply tragic psychology of Milton's Satan.
It really does.
In Paradise Regained, Satan isn't just this evil mastermind twirling his mustache. He is fundamentally pathetic.
He's a tragic figure.
There's this striking detail from the source where Satan is obsessing over Jesus. He's been stalking him for years, trying to figure out why God loves this frail human. And Satan screams out in this frustrated, desperate jealousy, quote, "The Son of God I also am, or was."
Or was. That implies a staggering level of self-awareness about his own decay.
He knows he's resting.
He does.
He's driven by this hollow, echoing vanity. He cannot understand what makes Jesus so special because Satan's entire worldview is transactional.
He thinks greatness is measured by power.
By empires, by showing off. He is entirely infected by Druge, by the lie that his worth comes from elevating himself above others.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, in both traditions, evil's primary tactic is to sever beings from their true nature.
Right.
Druge wants to make you forget your connection to Asha, the cosmic order.
And Satan wants to make Jesus forget his fundamental reliance on God.
Exactly. And this culminates in the final desperate act of Milton's epic.
The pinnacle.
Yes. Satan transports Jesus to the highest pinnacle of the temple in Jerusalem. It's a precarious, terrifying drop.
And Satan essentially says, if you really are the Son of God, jump. The scriptures say angels will catch you. Prove it to me.
It's the ultimate dare.
He's trying to trigger that human pride. Prove you're better than me.
But Jesus simply refuses to tempt God.
He doesn't blast Satan with a lightning bolt.
No.
He doesn't summon an angelic army to show off his status.
He defeats the devil by completely rejecting the prideful game Satan wants to play.
He just refuses to step out of his humble alignment with divine truth.
And faced with that absolute, unshakable integrity, Satan literally falls from the temple.
Completely broken by his own logical failure.
Exactly.
He defeats the ultimate evil just by standing still and refusing to buy into the lie.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? I mean, we've talked about ancient Persian cosmology. We've talked about a 17th century poem about a psychological duel in the desert.
It can feel very abstract.
It can. So how does a modern person actually participate in this cosmic structure?
That brings us to the absolute core of Zoroastrian ethics,
Okay.
the doctrine of radical free will.
Radical free will.
In this tradition, there is absolutely no predestination, no divine script that you are just acting out while an all-powerful God pulls the strings.
So you actually matter.
Ahura Mazda gave humans the genuine capacity to choose.
Right.
And every single choice you make summarized in their core maxim, humata, hukta, farshta, which means good thoughts, good words, good deeds, literally tips the scales of the universe.
So it's not symbolic, it's a literal contribution to the war effort.
Literal, yes.
Every time you choose instant gratification over integrity, whether it's cutting corners at work, lying to save face, or indulging your own ego at someone else's expense, you aren't just breaking a rule.
In the Zoroastrian view, you are actively feeding a cosmic parasite.
Your 9-to-5 life is the front line.
Every time you speak the truth, you are actively strengthening Asha, the cosmic order.
And every time you deceive, you're actively feeding Druge.
You bear the ultimate ethical weight. In fact, our sources highlight a fascinating mechanical rule of this religion to prove that point.
Oh.
Asceticism is strictly prohibited.
Asceticism. And just to clarify for everyone, that's the practice of severe self-discipline, avoiding all forms of indulgence.
Right.
It's the classic image of the monk hiding in a cave, fasting and meditating all day to reach spiritual purity.
Exactly.
You'd think a religion this focused on a spiritual war would love that idea.
But they absolutely reject it, and the logic is beautifully consistent.
How so?
If Ahura Mazda created the physical world as the battleground to trap and defeat evil, then the physical world is inherently good.
Oh, I see.
To retreat from it, to punish your body, or to hide in a cave is to desert your post.
You're going AWOL in the cosmic war.
You have a religious duty to participate in the material world.
That makes total sense.
You are supposed to fall in love, raise a family, farm the land, build businesses, and create thriving communities.
Joy, prosperity, and human connection are the literal weapons you use to fight decay.
Exact.
That is so incredibly resonant. I mean, in both the Zoroastrian framework and Milton's Christianity, the universe is absolutely not a spectator sport.
Not at all.
Just as Jesus had to actively walk into the brutal reality of the wilderness to undo Adam's failure and regain paradise, you are called to actively shape the world.
You have to be in it.
You don't get to sit on the sidelines and wait for the divine to fix it, because the divine is relying on you to swing the sword.
Which brings us to the ultimate question of where this all leads.
The end game.
Yes. If we are fighting this long war, what is the end game? The Zoroastrian tradition offers a profound vision called Frashokareti, the final renovation of the universe. To appreciate how radical this is, we have to understand their view of time.
Okay.
Many ancient cultures viewed time as cyclical, an endless wheel of birth, death, and rebirth.
And if time is just a circle, your choices don't permanently matter because everything eventually resets.
Exactly.
It's like playing a video game where your save file gets deleted every time you finish.
Zoroastrianism introduced the idea of linear time moving toward a definitive, permanent conclusion.
So every moral choice is a permanent brick laid in the foundation of the final universe.
Yes, and their vision of the end is surprisingly radically optimistic.
So if the end goal is to permanently burn away the Druge, how does Zoroastrianism handle the end of the world? I mean, I'm used to reading apocalyptic texts where half of humanity is doomed forever to a lake of fire.
Right. Let's talk about their concept of the river of molten metal.
A river of molten metal? That doesn't sound very optimistic.
It sounds terrifying at first. At the end of time, a river of molten metal will cover the earth. Every human soul must pass through it.
Oh, boy.
But this is a massive departure from the eternal hellfire doctrines that developed in later religions.
How so?
This river purifies rather than eternally punishes.
Interesting.
It is a metaphor for the ultimate testing of purity. For the righteous, the text says it will feel like walking through warm milk.
And for the wicked?
For the wicked, it will burn exactly like molten metal.
Ouch. But the burning isn't the point, right? It's not torture just for the sake of torture.
No, it only burns away the druge, the corruption.
It burns away the rust, leaving the iron intact.
Yes. Once the evil is burned away, every single soul is restored.
Wait, really? Every single soul?
Every single one. It is a doctrine of universal salvation.
Wow.
The adversary is destroyed completely, but humanity is entirely preserved and perfected.
That's beautiful.
The logic here is that if God is perfectly good, a perfectly good God would not allow any of his creations to be tortured eternally.
Because that would be a victory for Angermania.
Exactly. Healing and restoration are the only acceptable conclusions to a perfectly good universe.
That is such a powerful perspective on justice and mercy.
It really is.
It satisfies the human need for consequences. I mean, it literally burns to have your lives stripped away, but the end goal is healing, not eternal revenge.
Precisely.
To bring this deep dive to a close, whether we are looking at the vast, world-affirming ethical battleground of ancient Zoroastrianism, or the deeply personal psychological duel in the Judean wilderness from Paradise Regained, the message is startlingly similar.
They echo each other perfectly.
The nature of the divine isn't about escaping reality or wielding tyrannical power from the clouds. It's intricately bound to the quiet, difficult choices we make every single day in the dirt and the grit of the real world.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Returning to that debate between atheism and belief.
Please do.
Our sources noted that true righteousness in Zoroastrianism, found in core prayers like the Hashem Vohu, means loving goodness for the sake of goodness itself.
Not for a reward.
Exactly. You don't do good to earn a heavenly reward, and you don't avoid evil just because you fear punishment. You do good simply because it is the right thing to do.
Which is incredible because that concept predates modern secular philosophers like Immanuel Kant by thousands of years.
Yes. Kant argued that morality shouldn't be based on getting a prize, and here we have an ancient religion saying the exact same thing.
It completely removes the transactional nature of morality.
It does. And if both ancient devout believers and modern secular atheists can agree on this one central idea that doing good shouldn't require a cosmic bribe, then perhaps the truest manifestation of the divine isn't found in omnipotent power thundering from above.
Where is it found?
Perhaps it is found in the quiet, unrewarded integrity of ordinary human choices down here.
Going back to where we started, You're not just watching the heavyweight fight from the stands, hoping the billionaire arena owner steps in to stop the bleeding.
Not at all.
The bell is rung, you are in the ring, and your choices are the gloves. Thanks for joining us and keep thinking deeper.